Fox Sports Net and the FIA World Championship come to Hungary, where the first Grand Prix was staged in 1936 over 50 laps of a circuit in a city park. Tazio Nuvolari's Alfa Romeo defeating the 6-liter Auto Union of Bernd Rosemeyer for the win. Modern Formula One racing came here in 1986 for the first time behind the Iron Curtain, and 200,000 fans stormed to the Hungaroring, where we are today for round 12 of the FIA Formula One World Championship. Hello everybody and welcome to our Fox Sports Net coverage. I'm Mike Joy with the executive editor of F1 Racing Magazine, Peter Windsor, and 5-time winner of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, Derek Bell. What a beautiful city, what a beautiful place.
It is the most magnificent city, and of course it's only just 12 miles down the road to this excellent circuit where I think we're going to have an outstanding race today.
Well, even though, Derek, it's mid-season and this championship chase is falling into place, Peter, there's still a lot of new developments even this week.
Yes, that's right. New front tyre from Bridgestone, wider front tyre, building a compound that McLaren chose from the recent Jerez test. They're now feeling that compound is very marginal, so it's going to be extremely interesting to see how they get on with that. New long wheelbase Benetton too. Interesting circuit on which to introduce such a car. Really, it's going to come into its own at Spa, but here it's already proving to be as quick as a shorter car. David Coulthard now racing to finish second in the World Championship. Very relaxed about that, so I see him today performing a very, very good team job for West McLaren Mercedes. It's going to be a good race. It's going to be hot. It's going to be tyres. It's going to be engines. It's going to be everything. Back to you.
Going to be hot, especially a little sweat on Peter's brow there, and this big crowd dressed more for the beach, as it's going to be some 90 degrees today. This season has been dominated by this team, West McLaren Mercedes. Mika Hakkinen with 6 victories, David Coulthard with 1, split only by Michael Schumacher, whose Ferrari has 4 wins. He expected great things last race in Germany, Derek, but was not rewarded.
No, he certainly wasn't, but all the fans are there, all the red flags are out for Michael Schumacher, but it wasn't really to be Ferrari's day at all. They had a miserable weekend. Michael pulling out to have an electrifying start. His car in front puts in the way of him, but it really is the 2 McLarens. You can see them pulling away here, but Ralf Schumacher, the younger brother of Michael, it was his race. He was the man that drove with those McLarens for several laps, but by degrees those McLarens pulled away, and it was Jacques Villeneuve that, in my opinion, had the most outstanding race of the day. David Coulthard trying to make up time in his pit stop, but he overshoots, which of course cost him time, and he comes out of the pits, and he's still behind dear old Mika. Mika goes on to win, but at the end it was Michael saying to his brother Ralph, what are we going to do to try and beat these McLarens?
6th win of the year for Mika Hakkinen. He expands his lead over Michael Schumacher to 16 points in the Drivers' Championship. Their teammates, David Coulthard and Eddie Irvine, 3rd and 4th, and then Alexander Wurz for Benetton. The Constructors' Championship looks similar. McLaren Mercedes pads their lead over Ferrari, while Benetton, Williams, and Jordan scrap for the remaining points. Mid-season, Derek, it seemed that Ferrari would really challenge McLaren for both the Constructors and Drivers' Championship, but what's happened these last few races?
Well, I don't think you should really judge it on one race. After all, in Hockenheim, Michael Schumacher had an engine blow up. He went off the road in a car, lost a whole day's session. And in the race, they just didn't have the downforce. They didn't seem to have the speed. But of course, they were told before the race, we're going to take your little electronic black box away, and we're going to check it out after the race. So we're wondering whether maybe they took off some of their little electronic aids. Ron Dennis is convinced, and he's intimating with a protest that they have fiddle brakes. But Ross Brawn, in replying, says we don't have traction control. It makes you wonder what they're really getting at. However, at the end of the day, if we get rid of all this nonsense, we're going to get some great racing.
Here's a look at Jacques Villeneuve, who's been the winner of this race the last 2 years in a row. One of the Jordans readied on the grid.
Yeah, Damon Hill actually sits down there by a car. Remember, he has had some outstanding results here. He's never finished lower than 2nd place. In the last 2 years, he's been 2nd, and he won it previously to that. And he's going very well here, 4th quickest in qualifying.
Alexander Wurz, first time he's seen this circuit, will start from the 9th position. As for Ferrari's troubles, well, it's become kind of a one-horse race with McLaren Mercedes dominating. Let's get the word right from Michael Schumacher from the horse's mouth, as it were. What's wrong with Ferrari, Michael?
We have seen that in testing in Monza, being too slow to be honest, and Hockenheim increased our problem because it's far more bumpy than what is Monza, and that is a particular problem to us, and we're finding some of that problem here. Here we obviously have enough downforce to compensate for some of it. In Hockenheim drive so low downforce that you don't have that compensation.
Well, we'll see if Schumacher fares better today. All through this season, Peter has gotten various folks in the Formula One circus to help us keep you tuned to our telecast. And there's this one fella, he's been just trying to get to be a credible spokesman, and he's had a little trouble.
Remember we did one at Monaco?
I remember.
It was great. It was fantastic.
He just doesn't give up. I guess you want me to say, stay with us for more action from Hungary, right?
Exactly that. Thank you very much.
You'll never get me to say that ever.
Schumacher now, and 3 great races in a row, Ralph. Do you feel you've attained a new level as a driver, or is it just the team and the car coming together?
Well, I mean, we all improved. The team really improved itself, the car did, and I did. And I mean, as you have a better car, you get more confidence and you finish races.
Silverstone was a great race, a wet race. Do you enjoy the wet?
Well, I always enjoyed wet, and as you have a good car, which we haven't wet, then it's enjoyable and you can have a good result as well.
And how do you think you're going to go today in Hungary?
It's a bit difficult at the moment. It's again another low-speed circuit where you need a mechanical grip, which we didn't find now. But it's going to be somewhere between 6 and 8 or 10 maybe.
Flashback again to Austria. Michael was behind you for a few laps. How was that? Did you enjoy that bit?
I mean, I enjoyed racing again with Michael. I mean, we were, he wasn't too quick, so it was quite a good level. But then I had to give up because of my front tire. But I mean, I enjoyed it.
Got to ask you this question. 99, any plans yet?
Not yet, it's far too early, but I'm going to let you know in September.
He's going to let you know in September. I'll make a prediction that he will be in a Williams. Back to you.
Williams for Ralf Schumacher. Interesting.
I wouldn't. Where else would you go? If you're a young driver, been at Jordan, you'd have to go to Williams. You've got to go forwards and upwards, and Williams is the only place. Can't go to McLaren, can't go to Ferrari, wouldn't want to go to Benetton, so he's got to go to Williams, and I would if I could.
Well, if he goes to Williams, where does Eddie Jordan look?
Well, Eddie, of course, always looks for young drivers to bring them on, and I think I would have a crack at Montoya, particularly as he's the test driver at Williams. There's a possibility he could do a deal with Williams if Ralph went there to get the test driver Montoya back as part of a financial deal.
Well, his name is Montoya's name has been linked with several teams. So,
well, everybody has a go at this time of the year, don't they? But Montoya's going to go to his best deal. But at the moment, he's probably in the hands of Bernie Ecclestone and the boys, picking out where's the best place for him to go.
Well, hopefully you'll be announcing your plans for next season before we get too far along here.
I'll probably be sitting right
too.
here.
I hope I will as well. Let's have a look at qualifying highlights for this week's Hungarian Grand Prix.
Yes, they're very intriguing. In fact, nobody got out very early yesterday. They waited about 20 minutes, but it was Fisichella that had a lurid moment as he went off the road, tried to control it, actually kept on opposite lot all the way through, hit the tyre wheel, comes out again with the engine still running. But the story of it was Michael Schumacher gets pole initially, but it's very difficult. You've got to keep right on line here. Then it was David Coulthard. He went out, he got pole position, but of course it was this man, Mika Häkkinen, got one of those perfect laps that only Mika can do in that McLaren, goes out and gets pole position. Super time, gets up there at the front, but Damon Hill probably was the outstanding driver yet again. Circuit he adores, goes out and gets 4th position. Michael Schumacher quite happy with his 3rd place, but Mika Häkkinen overjoyed with pole position.
On yet another pole for Mika Häkkinen. Work going on as we get set at the McLaren grid. Bernie Ecclestone.
Bernie's having a look around and introducing him to some people that we can't see because they're out of the frame.
Well, you know it's somebody with money.
It's got to be somebody brilliant and somebody very, very important, no doubt.
Prix of Hungary, Mike Joy with Derek Bell and Peter Windsor.
There's Heinz Harrell sitting in the car. He's not been at all well. He's had terrible stomach problems this weekend, and of course that means dehydration. It's 90 degrees out there, and he went to see the doctor this morning, and they said, yes, you can race, but I don't think he's feeling at all well.
He had a little off with his rental car, I guess, his hire car.
Oh, yeah, well, that happens regularly.
Derek, I guess the life of a Formula One driver is so busy on and off track, you really need somebody to handle your affairs.
Yeah, they're a necessary evil, really. And I'm sure the drivers would rather do their own deals. They get the full 100% instead of giving their drivers 10 or 20%. But they're very, very important, of course, dealing with a lot of heavy businessmen out there. However, Peter Windsor is having a word with quite a few of them.
Getting set to go racing here with the Hungarian Grand Prix. And let's get a little bit of local flavor where the local flavor is fattening. We'll be right back as we lead up to the start after a word from McLaren's Ron Dennis. The Grand Prix of Hungary on Fox Sports Net is brought to you by Toyota. Every day back to our Toyota pre-race coverage for the Grand Prix of Hungary. little bit of news we missed at the top of the show is that the Prost drivers have re-signed, not resigned, but re-signed with Alain Prost for 1999.
Yeah, I don't think there was really anywhere else they were going to go. They haven't exactly shone, and nor is the team. I don't think anybody wants to go there, and nobody wants the drivers at this time, and it's rather depressing for them because they're both very talented.
Alain Prost said Olivier Panis and Jarno Trulli have shown determination and patience during this first season of restructuring and deserve to reap the rewards in 99. We will see.
I just hope Peugeot stay with them because they said, well, you better get on with the act in 99, boys, as we're out of the program.
Sylvester Stallone in the blue cap posing for pictures and working up a Formula One movie.
And there's Bernie Eccleston just looking over his field, just checking it all out. It's amazing. That man is such a hands-on man. Every race he's on the grid, in and out, chatting with the drivers, chatting with the teams, checking, but he always has time to talk to you.
Looks a little like Scrooge McDuck and has the pile of cash to play the role.
Yeah, well, I guess if I was earning £1 million a week, maybe I would get in there and work on Sundays too. But he does a great job, and he has a tremendous show out there. Look at those people. They've come to watch Grand Prix racing, and Bernie is the mastermind behind it.
Let's see, $1.5 million a week. That's just shy of your talent fee.
Yeah, I know.
These shows.
Exactly. $1.5 million cents. Not even that.
They say this is a difficult track to pass on, Derek. Show us why. Let's have a look around the Hungaroring.
Yes, it's really a very, very vicious circuit, really. It's very, very twisty, very hard on the drivers. A very abrasive circuit, and really the tires are what it's all about. As you turn into turn one, the track actually slips away on braking and turning. You can see the opposite lock that Mika Hakkinen puts on there as he comes through the corner, and you actually rocket out, lurch into the next corner. Series of lefts and rights. A lot of G-force under braking. They're going down this short straight up to 175 miles an hour as he goes through here, braking down, pulling 2.5 G as he goes through here. You've got to keep off those curbs, but it's really very fatiguing, very hard on the driver indeed. Tire choice is all important in this circuit, of course. And of course, it's the amount of time that you can be on the power, off the power, and try not to be off the power more than normal. And this is what it's all about in this circuit. But if you have an understeering car, you're not going to make it. So they have to get the balance just right. And of course, what works in practice or in qualifying isn't necessarily going to work in the race, because the track will get a lot more grip on it as the circuit goes on, as the race goes on, should I say. And of course, it becomes vital that you have just the right compound at the right time. And of course, last year it was a Bridgestone circuit. But it is a great little circuit. High downforce, high cornering speeds, braking, traction, and cornering all off the power there as he goes on to the last turn. And now we're down to Jacques Villeneuve and Olivier Panis for their comments about this circuit.
It's like any other track. I mean, even on the tracks where it should be easy to overtake, somehow it's not, which is very surprising. And sometimes you get on the track where it's impossible to overtake, and that's where the people don't expect you to overtake them. So you just go crazy, and suddenly you're side by side with them, and they're a little bit surprised.
This track is very difficult for the level de grip because the track is very dusty. But the first day is very difficult, but for Sunday it's much better. The very big point for this track is very important, not to lose the line, because after it's too much difficult to clean up the tires, because after 2 third laps the grip again coming at the very, very difficult track for this point.
The grid is formed up for the Grand Prix of Hungary. Let's have a look at the starting grid as our Toyota pre-race continues. 8th pole of the year for Hakkinen, and the 9th time we've had an all-McLaren front row.
And David Coulthard had been out there all weekend, but couldn't make it when he came to qualifying.
First time ever at this track, there's no Williams on the front row.
Yeah,
Michael, sorry,
I'm so sorry. I'm just going to say, look at Damon Hill up there. He's done a tremendous job in getting 4th place.
Best qualifying of the season for Damon, and Michael Schumacher, last year's pole sitter. Eddie Irvine will line up in the 3rd row along with last year's winner, Jacques Villeneuve.
Yeah, the Williams is getting better and better every race, and Jacques' confidence is really flying now.
Heinz-Harald Frentzen set the fastest lap last year, and Giancarlo Fisichella in the Benetton.
But poor on Heinz-Harald Frentzen, as I said just now, terrible stomach problems, so I don't think we're going to see too much from him, but who knows.
Alexander Wirtz lines up 9th in his first look at this circuit, and Ralf Schumacher, 5th here last year.
Here's with Alexander Wirtz, of course, first time out, and not easy for him to get up there and do a good time. I think he's done a remarkable job when you consider it rained most of Friday.
In the 6th row, it's been a long week for Jean Alesi. He had a lot of oversteer in practice, understeer in qualifying, while Pedro Diniz equals his best qualifying of the year in the Arrows. 7th row, Mika Salo's Arrows. He missed Diniz's time by 0.06 of a second, his teammate, and Barrichello in the Stewart. Row 8, we expected more from Johnny Herbert, who finished 3rd here last year. He lines up 15th, and Jarno Trulli in the Prost. Row 9, Jos Verstappen in the Stewart, and Takagi, who had the fastest top speed, trap speed, in the only Tyrrell that'll start today's race. Tuero, 5th time this year that he's been on the last row, and Panisse, no downforce on his car, trouble in qualifying, starts back there in 20th, and for the 4th time this year, Ricardo Rosset on the way home. He's had no success adapting to the bumpy circuits and did not qualify within 107% of the pole sitter Mika Hakkinen. So 21 cars will start today's race, led by Mika Hakkinen and teammate David Coulthard. We'll be right back with the start. Welcome back to our Toyota pre-race for the Grand Prix of Hungary. The grid beginning to clear, and we're getting close to a formation lap. Michael Schumacher, can he restore Ferrari's hopes, which are dimming for this championship? Today, it's only 80 degrees. They expected 90, track temperature near 100. Humidity moderate at 42%, hardly any breeze, and a slim chance of rain.
Got some tar burn there as he went off, so the traction control isn't working on his car. If he has it, that's for certain. Must point out at this point, Schumacher did an outstanding job in qualifying when you consider that he's one of the few cars up there on hard rubber Goodyear tires, and he did a great job in getting such a good time in qualifying. It should pay off in the race.
We're on the formation lap for the Grand Prix of Hungary. Mike Joy with Derek Bell and Peter Windsor. Mika Hakkinen, our Drivers' Championship leader, 16 points over Michael Schumacher. That's McLaren versus Ferrari. McLaren and Ferrari 3rd and 4th with Coulthard and Irvine, then Wirtz and defending champion Jacques Villeneuve.
Well, of course, there's all a brilliant night is going to be in this race, Mike. It's going to be about who can get in front at the start. And of course, Michael Schumacher is on the nice clean line right behind Mika Hakkinen.
Now explain that, Derek, about which is the clean line and which is the dirty road.
Well, the clean line is the one that's where everybody's been running to get the line for the first turn, because the first turn is very soon after the start. So there is a very good line, sort of almost on the braking area. So vital for Michael, who's behind Hakkinen on the front row, on the clean line. David, unfortunately, is on the slightly dirty line, greasy line, the line that hasn't been used for a whole year, and it's going to be more difficult for him to get traction, I think, coming out. And in fact, Damon Hill, of course, is in front of Eddie Irvine, right beside Michael, and Eddie had walked up to Damon Hill. Of course, those two don't love each other too much, and he went up and said, "Don't get in the way, kid. Stay where you are." But I don't know quite what he meant. I'm sure Damon heeded it every second.
Well, that's what played out in the Formula 3000 race. The drivers who were lined up on, as you say, the clean line, the favored line, were first into the first corner.
Well, you can see that Hakkinen there is just weaving around to get those tires, will retain the temperature that they had. They are running a softer compound Bridgestone. And of course, the soft tire, in fact, should come on strong towards the end of the race. It might not feature too well at the beginning, but at the end of the race, when there's more rubber on the track, it could work better.
How many pit stops, Derek?
Well, I think they'll go for 2 stops. Obviously, the people with soft tires will have to. I'm convinced of it. Some people, Jacques Villeneuve, I heard, might go for 1, and even Damon Hill might go for 1. It'd be good for Jordan to try that. Look at it. It's great to see that Jordan so far up the grid. Just watch this start. This is really all important as to what those guys can do behind those McLarens.
Now, the clean line is the line on the right side of your screen. That is the normal racing line where there's rubber buildup, but no rubber debris and marbles.
Exactly, but of course, remember that Schumacher will be trying to be blocked out by Coulthard. Coulthard's going to go straight across beside Mika Hakkinen if he has any brains in his head.
Watch the cars in the second row. Schumacher in red and Damon Hill in yellow. See if either can pit one of them and split the McLarens on the start of the Hungarian Grand Prix.
Oh, Irvine's gone by. He got a good move on Damon. They're both by Damon Hill, and Irvine nearly went by Michael Schumacher. That's not exactly what Michael wanted, but he's really protecting Michael. He's going to play a real defensive race here, I think, for Michael. But Eddie knows that Michael has to go for it in this race.
It looked as if Damon Hill and that yellow Jordan got a lot of wheel spin on the start, just as you predicted there on the off line.
Yes, he did just that. Of course, the further back you go, the line is worse and worse and worse. Both the Williams there, Frenzen's got right up behind Jacques Villeneuve. Frenzen, as I say, is not at all well this weekend. Let's hope he can stay in there. He very nearly won this race before. You know, he's got the talent, but he's not well. We'll have to wait and see. But Michael's got to stay with those two McLarens, and he's got to get in amongst them.
Schumacher did not prevail on the start and was unable to split Hakkinen from Coulthard, your 2 leaders.
He didn't actually have a good start at all. Actually, he had a better start than Damon, but he actually seemed to stand still for a split second or two, and everybody pulled away. But unfortunately, Damon didn't. There's Ralph going through. Ralph not doing quite so well this week, and he's much further back than he was after his stunning drive in Hungary, in Hockenheim just the other day.
Damon didn't get going badly, but certainly Irvine having the favored line and being right alongside him, it seemed as if Damon made a very prudent move into that first corner by allowing Irvine through. I think if he'd challenged for the corner, a collision would have been likely.
Yeah, well, Damon's a very experienced driver. You know, when you're that far up the grid, you want to get a result. You ain't going to get it if you go off at the first corner. Better to back off a bit, which he's backed off quite a bit, and then just consolidate. Remember, if Damon is running heavy tanks, that could well be why he's slipping back a little bit now. You see, he shouldn't be overtaken, but if he's running a one-stop strategy, he could well be just conserving himself for that one stop.
How much heavier would his car be if he was running a full fuel load at the start?
Well, he won't run full fuel. They never actually run full, so it's a job to say how much.
Okay.
They'd run fuel if they're full, if they were going to do like 3/4 of the race, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
It's difficult to know just what the weight would be, but, you know, 40 pounds, 50 pounds heavier, that's a tremendous amount.
Substantial.
But remember, to start with, you can see the black line down there, and they are easy. Let's watch the start again. But you see, look at Schumacher doesn't really get going. Both the McLarens going off looking like they've got traction control. And Irvine coming down the outside there, right behind Michael, to sort of keep out Damon Hill. Actually, a very good piece of driving by Eddie there. And they're the 2 Williams. They had a good run, the 2 Benettons, and John Alesi right out in amongst them.
Could some of that difference in acceleration between the 2 Ferraris be tires with Irvine on the soft compound and Michael on hards? Or
But basically, you're absolutely right, Mike. It would make a difference. And, of course, the 2 McLarens are on the soft compound as well. And what you don't want to do is you just don't want to burn them out by sort of spinning the wheels too much. So it's a very fine balance when they get away.
The 2 McLarens have sped away just a bit. The 2 Ferraris. And then Damon Hill leads a long train of cars. And a big gap developing between Schumacher. There's his Ferrari. Where's Irvine? There he is.
Yeah, there he is. You see, Eddie could be also on a one-stop. Remember, Eddie is running a softer Goodyear tire, which probably wasn't a very good choice. Bridgestone were going to have a new compound. Remember, they're running a wider front tire this weekend, which should really work very, very well for the rest of the year. But, of course, they are running the soft rubber. Now, that's fine if you get in the lead and you're not actually having to dice too much. But I think David's going to be pushing Mika Hakkinen the whole way here, just rather the way he did at Hockenheim. I mean, David, I believe, could have won the race at Hockenheim, but as you know, he had that poor pit stop, which dropped him back, and that was it. Couldn't capitalize on it.
Well, his comments after the race, Coulthard's comments, were very telling.
If only we could see Michael Schumacher's feet at the same time as the hands. Only you're only seeing half the story.
There is Schumacher.
It might take more time for his tires to get into rhythm too. Oh, don't do that, Mika. You don't need to start locking tires up. But it does happen a lot here because they unload the car as they come into the corner. It's got a bit of camber on there, and it actually unloads that inside tire.
When we saw that in-car lap with Hakkinen, as he'd accelerate off the corner, you'd wonder if the front tires were even in contact with the ground. They were just sliding and skating and bouncing so much.
Yes, it's a strange circuit. It's very abrasive. It only doesn't get used that much. You can imagine there isn't too much road racing in Hungary. Certainly not at this level. They don't get the rubber on the road. And so therefore you have something like this where we have to go out and gradually put the rubber down. And on Friday there was a wet morning, so there was water everywhere, as you can imagine, Mike.
And you get no water on the no rubber down on the circuit in those conditions. I was talking about Coulthard's comments following the last race, where you know he did talk a lot about riding behind Mika, watching Mika's car lose oil, you know, or lose fluid or something, just as if had he had it his way, he would have been in a different place, like ahead.
Absolutely, yeah. No, you would have. It was pretty tough for David because I'm sure if he'd known that, he could probably have gone by Mika Hakkinen there at the end of the race. Because of course you remember Jacques Villeneuve was catching up hand over fist too. But Michael is actually catching right up behind him. He's staying with the McLarens.
But again, we remind you, the FIA has clarified that teammates are permitted to work together following team orders. However, they are not allowed to interact with another team to affect the result of the race. So Coulthard was being the dutiful soldier, supporting Mika Hakkinen's lead and expanding that lead in the World Championship. That was last week.
Yeah, that was last week. This is this one. But you notice they're 4 seconds a lap slower than they were in qualifying.
Goodness.
That's absolutely outstanding.
You're watching the Grand Prix of Hungary on Fox Sports Net. The McLarens leading the Ferraris and Damon Hill. We'll be right back. Just outside Budapest. Every night on Fox Sports Net, it's Fox Sports News Prime Time. All the scores, all the highlights, and all the breaking stories covering your hometown teams 7 nights a week. We're there with Fox Sports News Prime Time.
You notice actually just saw shoot out of the shot there with Eddie Irvine, and he's actually pulled away from this group of Damon Hill and of course the 2 Williamses, and Michael is hanging right on doggedly on the back of David Coulthard. Remember, if you get too close, you actually get a lot of sliding on the front of the car. You get more understeer, more push, which of course destroys your tires. So Michael doesn't want to do this. He's got to stay a respectful distance. And you might think, well, why isn't he making an attack at the moment? Well, one of the reasons probably is that, you know, some of these guys on 2-stop strategies, they're just playing themselves in at the moment. Unfortunately, as it might seem to us, but I think they're just biding their time, and it'll all start happening very shortly.
About half a minute behind the leaders, Derek. Great battle for 11th place. Pedro Diniz, Mika Salo, Ralf Schumacher, who started 10th and now finds himself 13th, and Johnny Herbert having a frantic battle, nose to tail for 11th on back.
Probably just noticed Eddie Irvine just got the quickest lap of the race, and he's in 4th place, so that's great stuff for Eddie. But he's broken free from the Jordan and the attentions of Damon Hill, and of course that means he can start to go off with Michael. And you'll see him, Eddie, just there he is, Eddie coming into the back of your shot, right back there at the back.
Wondering why the McLarens are so much slower than they were in qualifying or even in the morning practice.
Yes, well, of course, they're running more fuel than they probably were, and the track is a little bit hotter. You see, David's locking up that little left inside wheel as he comes to that turn, but we don't get the right perspective here, but it is quite undulating, this circuit. There's quite a lot of bumps, and as I was talking to Coulthard just the other day, and he said, you know, if you brake just that bit too late, these brakes just lock up in a split second, and that's what you have to be so cautious of, and he's under pressure from Michael, so he's braking just that little bit later than he might normally be doing.
Mika Hakkinen, here's David Coulthard, and there is Schumacher. I wonder if at this stage, if that gap between Hakkinen and Coulthard is somewhat of a planned one. I mean, could the strategy go so far as to have Coulthard kind of hang back to harass Michael Schumacher and prevent him from gaining toward the lead?
Well, I'll tell you something I found out earlier this morning, Shai, that Hakkinen has a more powerful engine than David Coulthard today. Well, David's had the first notification that he isn't going to get the same equipment as Mika from now on, which is a bit galling for him. But at the same time, if I was David, I'd be going, I don't know, maybe I'll better get in there and win this race because Mika might have unreliability. But that is the truth of the matter. But he obviously is pulling away, and they're all pulling away from the 2 Ferraris just a little bit, but it's Eddie that is gradually catching up. See the black bumps there as they come to that corner? That shows you just how bumpy it is there. Bumps there, that's why they lock those inside left wheels up. They come over the bumps. The suspension just cannot absorb it enough. Those with better shock absorbing, they can absorb it.
And those black marks as that tire comes back down in contact and locks up. Looks like the end of an aircraft runway where all the planes touch down. Where all that lockup is. Schumacher staying right there with David Coulthard. There's a look at the last 3 laps for Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher. And Mika beginning to pick the pace up now.
Yes, he's gradually to ease away. But again, as I said earlier, these 2 McLarens are both on the softer good Bridgestone tyre. Can't compare how it compares with the hard Goodyear that Michael's got behind, but nonetheless it is a softer Bridgestone.
Ferrari's they've not been sitting back complacent. They've been trying a lot of different things. They brought out a new high downforce rear wing.
They brought out this wing, but in fact they did change it, didn't they, after qualifying, because it was overheating at the back there, and they don't want this overheating area around the back of the wing, so they've actually modified it yet again. They did this early in the season and changed the diffusion, actually brought the exhaust at one stage out to the top of the engine cowling.
And they've even changed the bodywork between practice and the race here, putting a lot more cooling vents in the bodywork for today's race, expecting 90-degree temperatures.
Well, I think they expected a heck of a lot more than that, actually. It was so hot here in the week, and all the guys have been testing in Jerez in Spain, where it was actually a track temperature of 160 degrees. That is the track, and the actual ambient was over 40 degrees Celsius, which is something like 125. In preparation for this race, and it hasn't come out quite as hot as they intended.
A look at the leaders: Hakkinen, Coulthard, Schumacher, and Eddie Irvine a bit back after Irvine. Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, who, despite the stomach flu, doing quite well here.
It is the most awful thing, you know, when you have a stomach problem. I had it once, and we're very lucky as racing drivers. You don't often get ill before a race. I think it's to do with the adrenaline in the veins, and you just do not get it. And I went into a race in Portugal, strange enough, and I was so drained I had to keep running off to the John all the time prior to getting on the grid. But once I got on that grid, adrenaline took over, and I drove the whole race absolutely faultlessly, no problem at all. I had a lot of fluids, another puff of smoke. Look, and another one off Coulthard's car over those bumps. They ought to try and adjust some brake balance a little bit to the rear, maybe.
Always, it seems, in that same corner.
Yeah, but you can see the bad bumps, and it goes downhill. So, of course, you're braking, and the car is dropping at the same time. This is what Mika Hakkinen. Here's another shot. He's smoking. There's already smoke line there from the previous car. This is not doing David's soft tyres any good at all. And Michael Schumacher must be saying to himself, keep doing that, kid. You're going to end up with some nice big flat spots on there, and I'm going to be able to capitalize on it later.
Well, Hakkinen has opened up a 4-second lead on that red Ferrari of Schumacher.
Yes, what we don't know is whether Michael could actually, if he was ahead of David, whether he could actually run faster, because there is this turbulence problem that we have in Formula One behind the cars. Very difficult to get too close.
They're going to address that for 1999 and the year 2000. We'll talk more about that in a moment. Mika Hakkinen leads David Coulthard, Michael Schumacher, Eddie Irvine, Damon Hill, and Jacques Villeneuve in the front 6 positions after 11 laps at the Hungarian Grand Prix. Eddie Irvine has come pit side after closing on Michael Schumacher. Look at the wear to the tires, but that is not his problem. The car has stopped, and now comes in the Ferrari mechanics, totally surprised by Irvine's entry to the pits. And is he going to back it in the garage?
If he could find a gear, he probably would, but I think they're going to push him. Who knows what the problem is, but it's a pity because he was actually catching up Michael very, very gradually there. And it'd be nice of Eddie to have had a clear race with Schumacher just in front of him.
So Irvine, who has run 4th the entire race after pipping Damon Hill on the start.
That put Damon up to 4th place, I imagine, unless something else has happened that we haven't seen, because unfortunately we're not getting that much coverage of anybody else but the 3 at the front.
And there was no indication from any of the camera angles we saw of Irvine going off course or having a problem out on the circuit.
Oh, well, they've still got one in there, and Jean-Todt must be wondering just what it is. Another car pulling over and slowing down.
Is that a Minardi? It is, and waving yellow for that corner of the circuit.
That's right on pit exit as well. That's a pretty dodgy place to put it, but I guess they will push it back. He daren't turn any sharper in case somebody was coming out of the pit lane.
The 20-year-old Argentine. Sorry, Esteban Tuero, and you see all that smoke coming out the intake.
Well, he was having a dice for last place with the Pride of France just now, Olivier Panis. And I'm sure Olivier will be quite pleased that he isn't dicing anymore, but he'll be even more sad that he's not last now. I mean, that he is last.
So 2 cars out of the race then. Tuero and Eddie Irvine. All rather quickly. At 14 laps, Mika Hakkinen opening up a bit of a lead on David Coulthard. You see it there, the 2 silver arrows. The McLaren Mercedes domination continues. And it's 14 seconds from Michael Schumacher in 3rd place back to Damon Hill, now that Eddie Irvine is no longer part of the picture.
Yes, it's rather a big gap. Yeah, they got an arrow out calling him in, which is rather strange. But maybe he called them on the radio and just said, I have this problem. They said, you better come in. They no doubt would know from the telemetry what sort of problems he had. See, Michael's not dropping back that much from them, but of course they have been catching up other traffic. There's Pani, I think, in front of them. They've got to go by.
Now, Ferrari had increased the rev limit on their engines, looking for another 10 or 15 horsepower. They went up, I forget if it was 100 or 200 RPM on the red line.
Yes, I don't know whether they would use that in the race, though, Mike. I think that's something they'd probably only use for qualifying. Some things you never really know.
Penny giving way to Coulthard and to Schumacher, so as not to disrupt the race between them.
But I think it actually allowed Michael to catch that little bit up on David just in front of him.
Report from Peter in the Ferrari pit is that Eddie Irvine lost 4th, 5th, and 6th gear.
Probably only had reverse. That's what you said, reversing back in there. I thought it might well be a gearbox problem because there was no smoke or anything. That's a great pity for Eddie, because he's had such great results this year, and of course he was giving Coulthard quite a hard time for 3rd place in the championship.
He's in no danger of losing 4th in the Drivers' Championship, despite the DNF today. The difference between Coulthard and Schumacher posted as 1.2 seconds, but
3.1 between him and of course Mika in front. It's funny, Michael doesn't seem to take such a wide line coming, and it's almost like he's not stretching himself at the moment. It's an odd thing. He's not sort of pushing it too much going into the corner at all. Just staying with David. When you have to be fair, it's terribly difficult to overtake here, and it's not the time of the race you want to take a chance. And he did, look, on this corner here, you get so much turbulence, so much understeer as you're going through if you're not careful. And it is an understeering circuit. The first thing that you deteriorate are the front tyres. So you have to be very cautious. And if you get in somebody's toe, you're going to get that condition arising.
So Schumacher staying a bit well back of Coulthard for that reason. And it does appear, maybe it's just that Michael's so smooth that it looks like he's driving at 9/10.
Yeah, but I noticed he just wasn't taking to the limit coming in. You know, he was coming like 3 foot off the curb as he came into the corner, taking the apex, obviously, but not the tight line coming in. It was quite interesting. Several laps I've noticed that.
Hakkinen again, fast lap of the race. You're with Schumacher.
What we don't know is whether, they might have been trying some new components in the Ferrari. I know I'm reminiscing, and I shouldn't, but way back years and years ago when I was with the Ferrari team, every race we had something different. I'd have a different set of pistons to the other guy, or a different camshaft, or something different. They never told you till afterwards, till it broke, and then they say, well, we had something new in there. And you say, thanks a bunch. But, you don't know what's happening in actually engineering-wise. They're always testing something they have to be.
Well, it would make sense that if Schumacher still has an outside chance at the Drivers' Championship, and he does, if you were going to experiment, you'd do it in Irvine's car.
You most certainly would, yeah. Because Irvine was on the softer tyre, which again was interesting, because although he was making slight inroads on Michael, he wasn't making as much as you'd think, considering he had a softer tyre. But then Michael normally pulls away from Eddie, and he's got the harder tyres, which might have balanced that sort of driving experience out just a little bit.
It's McLaren, Ferrari here in the Grand Prix of Hungary. Mika Hakkinen leading David Coulthard. And here's a look at that great fight well back in the pack at about 11th place. We'll be right back with more coverage on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Hungary. Coming up in 2 weeks, Michael Schumacher must defend his 97 win in Belgium if he's going to have a chance of wresting the Formula One championship from Mika Hakkinen. Grand Prix of Belgium, August 30th on Fox Sports Net. Check your local listing.
Well, Michael's getting a lot of pressure on David here. David again locking up that left-hand inside wheel, front wheel. That must pay badly for him when here he goes again. Oh, no, this is another incident, perhaps. Oh, dear, here we go. Johnny Herbert having a moment as he slides off the road. No, it's a Lacey, beg your pardon. Difficult to see the helmets in this weather. But there you go, off the road. Lacey not running badly at all, but Johnny Herbert having a very poor weekend there.
Looks like a Lacey still plagued with that understeer, combined with a brake lockup that hurt his qualifying chances. Mika Salo out of the race, appeared to lose an engine, a lot of smoke and fluid as he downshifted for one of the corners and pulled off the course. So Salo joins Esteban Tuero, who lost an engine, at Eddie Irvine, who lost the top 3 gears. Fisichella passed Alesi when Jean Alesi went off the circuit. So that's 8th place, and Ralf Schumacher has passed Pedro Diniz for 10th place.
It would be nice to see some of that going on back there. But there isn't much happening at the front, although Michael is certainly on the really close up there with David Coulthard, and we'll see what it's like when he catch up in front there, catch up with the Tyrrell, and just see if the Tyrrell will hold them up.
Takagi in the Tyrrell has made a pit stop. He did after he went a lap down, made a pit stop, and is now, as a result of all that, gone 2 laps down to the race leader, and now runs just in front of Coulthard and pulls aside.
Schumacher gets by possibly at the same time. You did mention earlier, Mike, that the Tyrrell was so very fast in a straight line. And it's quite interesting. Viewers at home might wonder, why has a Tyrrell so fast a straight line? Well, the reason is, of course, is that they often have to have a lower downforce on their cars to get the speed, and so therefore they go quicker in a straight line to try and get a balance. But round here you do need a high downforce car. Probably the car does not have the downforce that they would like it to have. Can't put actually any more on it.
Takagi fastest trap speed, top speed, during the qualifying session.
These guys put about as much downforce on here as they actually do at Monaco.
Really?
But they don't have the guardrails and the fences quite as close, with so many walls and so many bits of water to drop into.
Now, we talked earlier about changes in store for next year, because the groove tires and the minor changes that Formula One made have not really slowed these cars.
That was a nice bit of in-car, wasn't it?
With Michael.
David is certainly twitching about. I think David's giving everything he's got, and Michael's just hanging in there. Michael didn't seem to be having that much problems with his car. With David, you've seen him get a little bit out of shape quite a lot. There's another load of smoke off that front wheel.
Shinji Nakano in the remaining Minardi. His teammate Esteban Tuero out with engine trouble. He gives up 16th place to make his first pit stop. So what do we look for next year, Derek, as the FIA tries to not just so much slow the cars, but increase the passing ability as you get up close behind the car?
Yeah, well, I think the biggest change is going to be in the year 2000, but they're not going to be able to do that just yet. They're going to restrict the engine mapping systems to remove the lingering doubts about traction control, which seems to be a great moment of discussion. And they're going to legalize electronic brake balancing, which I don't quite understand. And they're going to free up electronic differentials. And also they're talking about having power brakes so that the guys that aren't quite as strong as the others have a more balanced or equal chance. I think that's a pathetic thing to give them in return for the fact that they might, in the year after, in the year 2000, cut off the rear diffuser, which would slash about 25–30% actually off the downforce.
Jarno Trulli is making his first stop.
Stop being the operative word.
Damon Hill is in, and Jacques Villeneuve was right up Damon Hill's tailpipes when he chose to make his pit stop.
So much for Damon Hill's only doing one stopper strategy. So that's put Jacques Villeneuve back up into a good position. See how Damon, good stop, is it? Yeah, that's a good stop, and out he goes.
So Villeneuve will move up to 4th. And the Ferrari pit awaits Michael Schumacher.
Oh dear, that was I think that might have been Johnny Herbert slipping by one of the cars further back, but of course that's what Damon didn't need, is a couple of slower cars in front of him as he goes out on fresh rubber. Of course, the longer you can leave these pit stops, the longer you leave before you come in. If you're not losing time, you may as well stay out there.
Schumacher.
Down to his 70 miles an hour on the rev limiter as he comes in, 70 all the way down here. Looks like he was flicking off a strip there automatically. His fuel cap will pop open. good stop by Ferrari. Can't tell you how many seconds that was, but it looked pretty slick to us. They don't make many bad stops these days, Ferrari.
Let's see where he comes out on the racetrack.
Right behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen, or is that Villeneuve? Anyway.
If that's Frentzen, that'll put Michael in 5th.
Yes, I think Jacques was further ahead of... I don't think that was Jacques at all. But that's not too bad for him, because the others have got to go in. But you see, these McLarens, they carry on. Remember, they're on a softer rubber. It just doesn't make sense. They're on a soft tire. Michael was on a hard, yet he went in sooner. But, you know, sometimes you go in because you feel, I go, maybe my next set of rubber might be just that bit better than the set that I've been running. And it's just a gamble you take.
One of the McLarens will be in this lap.
It ain't going to be
Won't be Hakkinen, no.
This is going to break the lap record going in the pits.
Now, this is a little different from last race where they pitted the lead car first, allowed the lead to swap. Here they're pitting Coulthard first, and he is in the pit lane.
Well, I think the reason for that is that Hakkinen has a nice clear lap ahead of him, so why bring him in and get him out with traffic when he can get some nice clear lap in now, maybe a couple of clear laps. Let's hope everything goes to plan for David, and he doesn't. Good stop. He's coming out just ahead of Jacques Villeneuve, is he? Yes, he's going to get in there. Yeah, he's in the corner.
Just ahead.
Jacques Villeneuve and Michael, here they come. This should be interesting. Villeneuve's going to try and upset David while he's on his fresh tyres, because David is not going to be so committed for a couple of corners, because he's got to take it in hand that their brand new tyres, but they're quite what they'll do. Now remember, this is the order in the race. This is 2nd, 3rd and 4th, having a real old go here. Of course, you can see Michael's new tyres really, really working, because he can stay right on the back of Jacques. Jacques has not been in yet.
10th place Ralf Schumacher has come to the pits.
Well, this is just what Michael Schumacher does not need, is to have Jacques Villeneuve in front, letting David Coulthard get away while he protects his 3rd place.
Schumacher's stop.
A bit longer than he would have liked, I feel sure, but unfortunately he's not really very heavily in contention at this moment. Nice clear bit of road for him to come out on, though. That Williams doesn't work at the moment.
Just Verstappen making his stop, and Olivier Panis is in behind him. Well, this must be really frustrating for Schumacher.
Yeah, this is exactly what he didn't want. And of course, they called him in when they did, and they should have calculated a little bit better, I would have thought. But Jacques will have to stop soon, but of course by that time David Coulthard will have got that brake that he didn't need, that he wanted but Michael didn't need. You can see the rubber line on the outside of these corners now. With these groove tyres, slick tyres this year, we actually slicked with the grooves in. You haven't actually, the leader's in. I better keep quiet about the tyres for a moment. Come back to it. Stop, I thought.
We'll watch for Coulthard in the front straightaway.
There he is. Yep. So that didn't work. What I was saying just now is that there's a lot of rubber coming off these tyres on this abrasive circuit, and of course if you get offline, you get on that and you're in a lot of trouble. And you could see it on some of those close-up shots.
So after pit stops, the order remains the same. Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard 1-2. Coulthard has pulled away from Jacques Villeneuve in the Williams, who appears to be holding up Michael Schumacher. Now the last of the contenders, Alexander Wirtz. That's the first activity in the Benetton pits. Fisichella has not been in. And there's activity in the Williams Williams pit. That's right. Villeneuve has not stopped.
No, he hasn't stopped. Villeneuve hasn't stopped. So that's going to give Michael a break. But by then, of course, DC will have pulled away. There's the gap. Look, those two ahead. And Michael and Villeneuve aren't that far behind, but Michael, I think, wanted to pressure David just a little bit sooner than that. Let's just see if Villeneuve dives up that. Oh, well, we're not going to see it.
See if Villeneuve comes in this time.
Obviously, they don't think about us.
No, he stays out.
Villeneuve has not come in there. They are coming down now. Michael, I think, just backs off and doesn't want to destroy the tyres.
Lock up on Jacques Villeneuve, who runs in third, last year's winner of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Coverage on Fox Sports Net will continue after this. Jacques Villeneuve completes his stop in 11.3 seconds. Jean Alesi was in for Sauber for only 6.8 seconds. Great stop for the Sauber team.
And Frenzen had a 16-second stop. So Williams aren't doing too good a job today. And there, of course, there goes Jacques as he goes out behind the Jordan. And that isn't very good for him because he was well up there having such a good run.
He will then surrender third place and lose fourth to Damon Hill. So Michael Schumacher moves up to third, Damon Hill to fourth. Remember that Hill has never finished worse than second here. And Jacques Villeneuve comes back on track in fifth place.
Now we've got to see if Schumacher's got a clear bit of road in front of him, whether he can make up some time on David Coulthard. But of course, the best of his tires have gone, unfortunately. Now, as the race progresses, we should start to see these soft tires work. Schumacher's not so far behind Coulthard. I'd like to know what times he's doing on these laps, because he's obviously cranking in a few quick ones here to make up that time on David Coulthard. You see the bumps on the exit of that corner. Look at him locking up. He hasn't been doing that before, so he is trying. There you go. What did I say? Fastest lap of the race. He is pressing on. It was very evident he was going to at some point, and he's now doing it. Quicker lap than Mika Häkkinen, and he's on the way. Look at him lock that left front up. No wonder he's got the whole thing sideways as he comes in the corner. We saw Schumacher in qualifying yesterday doing just that. And my goodness, he was so on it. He was so hard. It was brilliant to see him absolutely pushing, actually manhandling that car around the circuit.
He's cut the gap to Coulthard to 2.2 seconds. Second to third. He is 6.1 seconds behind leader Mika Häkkinen. But Schumacher was pretty well slowed down by Jacques Villeneuve before Villeneuve gave up third place on the racetrack to make his pit stop.
Of course, as a circuit, if your car handles well here, you make up a ton of time. And of course, as I said earlier on, if your car doesn't handle, you've got an understeer problem, or push, as we call it in the States, you're just never going to get on those apexes.
Johnny Herbert, 7.2 seconds.
Great stops from this team today. Absolutely outstanding stops, but unfortunately might not be too much avail. They're a long way back in the race.
Alesi, or rather Herbert, was in 10th place.
Look at Schumacher. He certainly isn't 2 seconds behind now. He's up in 1.5 seconds behind.
We talked about 1999 and some computer and engine changes, Derek, but for the year 2000, it looks like they're going to really address the aerodynamics on these cars to try to make the cars work better in traffic and make it easier for a driver to get a run and do some passing.
Yes, well, the drivers want to overtake, believe me, and what they've done hasn't totally worked. Piece of driving there with Mika Häkkinen, but of course it's so nice to be in front in the best car, isn't it? Makes life a lot easier. Yes, they're talking about cutting the rear diffuser, which was slashed down force by between 25 and 30%. That is outstanding amount. And of course, as you say, that would help overtaking. It would stop them going quite so fast and everything. So in the corners, that is, it would be outstanding for them to do that. And of course, they're talking also about extending this flat bottom section underneath further forward. This would effectively prevent the teams running the raised noses. We should also cut the downforce out.
But again, those changes are proposed for the year 2000. Some bit away. You see Jacques Villeneuve right on Damon Hill, the battle for fourth place, but Hill is about half a minute behind Michael Schumacher in third.
Yes, here we
There's
go.
that battle.
Here's Villeneuve. This should be interesting to see how these two go. Jack, as we know, does not hang about. If he wants to go by, he's going to make his presence extremely felt.
This is how these two drivers were running in the closing stages of this race last year, before Damon Hill had hydraulic problems, and Jacques Villeneuve slipped past for the win.
Yes, he went down the field, actually. He took to the field about that spot there. He went right down the dirt to get it. It was an astounding bit of driving. Yes, both these guys have won here twice. So they both are at home here. They like these twisty circuits. Damon, it's funny how he shines on certain circuits, isn't it? And in two different cars, too.
Yes.
Or even three different cars, should I say. The astounding thing last year that he was running in the Arrows, and they had the Yamaha engine, and suddenly this thing flew. I don't know whether it had a 5-litre Yamaha engine, but my goodness, or he had two engines in there. It certainly worked well for him.
Well, Hill, whose qualifying has been lackluster all season, managed a second-row start for today. As you said, he certainly rose to the occasion. There's a look at the order. Hakkinen, Coulthard, two Mercedes, a Ferrari, the Jordan, Williams, and then Frentzen in the second Williams in sixth. The Benetton teammates, Wirtz and Fisichella, Sauber and John Lacey.
Stuart Ford's both back there a long way. They just aren't getting it together out there. It's really disappointing. I'm glad to see Verstappen sort of behind Barrichello or close to him, but he hasn't had a good weekend either. He ran up the back of Rosset, I think, in practice. Well, that is an easy thing to do because the guy's so darn slow. Might run over him without thinking about it, but still not a good thing to do as a race driver, is run over the back of another car.
You're watching the battle for fourth between Damon Hill and Jacques Villeneuve as you watch Formula One racing on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Hungary, where Michael Schumacher has caught up David Coulthard in a battle for second place.
Yeah, he's really doing a great job, Michael. He's catching really, really well.
Fox Sports Net's going deep, taking you past the headlines and inside the biggest stories for an insight you just can't get anywhere else. Joe Buck goes deep Sundays at 9 on Fox Sports Net. Check your listings.
Because what's happening now, we have the situation where we just saw Hakkinen riding the curbs. He's pushing so hard. Michael has obviously got his car working. He's giving David a hard work over. So David's got to go faster to keep Michael behind him, in which case they're both starting to catch up, I believe, on Hakkinen.
In traffic, Schumacher was within a car length.
He was almost under the car of Coulthard, but he's lost it a bit now. And, oh, look, David's still locking that whole front tire up as he comes in there.
One thing, Derek, I would say that the drivers being lapped, despite the tightness of this circuit, seem to today have done a better job than anywhere else we've seen this season.
Yeah, well, I think when they have their drivers' briefings, they realize that this circuit is very, very difficult to overtake, and therefore they've got to look in their mirrors and pull over. And of course, you know, you do have the best marshals in the world doing Formula One, or not only Formula One, but you do get the cream of the marshals doing this sort of thing. And of course, they're giving their blue flags very venomously out there.
But so far, I've not seen an incident where a slow car has let one of two cars past and, say, split Coulthard and Schumacher going into a corner. If they've moved aside, they've stayed aside to let both cars through.
Yes, they've been very good like that, and that is easy. When you're the guy behind like Schumacher is, that's the most worrying thing when you come up to overtake. You think, has that guy in front seen me? He's seen a blue flag, but there weren't two blue flags saying there were two cars.
Right. So
you don't know whether he's seen you or not. And after all, the guy that you're lapping is having his own race as well.
Now here's the second place battle again, coming up on traffic. Out of the race, Eddie Irvine, gearbox, Tuero, Salo, and Trulli with engine trouble.
It's tough on engines too, this track, because it's a lot of braking, a lot of hard acceleration, and it is on transmissions. We seem to get less trouble with transmissions these days, but with the revs they're running these cars at and the deceleration, I mean 17,000 revs, looks like they're getting ready for Michael Schumacher. Well, because I think what's happening here with this Michael stop is the fact that David Coulthard is holding Michael up. And so they thought, well, we may as well bring Michael in to get some clear laps, get some real speed out there. Remember, they're 30 seconds ahead of Damon Hill. So there is quite a gap there. They can afford to bring Michael in, get him out, and then he can pick up some speed so that maybe when Coulthard has his stop, he will be ahead of Coulthard after the stop. Does that make sense to you, Mike?
It makes sense, Derek, but I'm curious as to the strategy, as to why you would give up 20 to 22 seconds, the time of the pit stop and the times running slowly at 70 miles an hour down the pit lane, give up that much time for the benefit of new tires.
Well, it's Michael's call as well. And, you know, he works very well with Ross Brawn. They've won a lot of races together. Michael is very obvious that Michael can get ahead. If he could get ahead of David, he could pull away. But you see, he's had to back off again because the tires start to scrub out, get overheat. All
right, let's forward this strategy to the end of the race. If Schumacher's on a two-stop strategy and he stops now, won't he be all out of tires at the end of the race?
I would think not with the hard tires.
Okay.
And so, of course, with a harder tire, they work better when they're new. Now, when they get old, they will also work well, but of course the track will have a lot more rubber on it. So he wants to capitalize on it while he can. And right here, all he's doing is losing time. If they whip him in, they've looked at the track behind him, and there's a lot of clear road. I imagine they've looked at it, and they think, well, bring him in, put those tires on, send him out, and then he can make up maybe half a second lap on Coulthard, so that when Coulthard stops, Michael will be 3 seconds ahead.
42 laps are complete. Mika Hakkinen with a 3.5 second lead over the battle you're watching.
Looked like Michael went in the pit lane.
He did. It's exactly what they're doing. Ferrari with an early second stop for Schumacher at lap 43. Now, he should be able to retain third place.
Well, with the 30-second lead, they certainly should, because it's normally just a mid-20s. Look at that brake dust coming off. But, I mean, this is the strategy they've done. They know he should go out and not have anybody really to overtake apart from tail-enders. 6.8 seconds, that is outstanding. Remember, that should take him to the end of the race. Comes out, he's got nobody to worry about because they're all behind him, and the leaders are well in front. Now the leaders will have to stop. Michael will fly. Remember, he couldn't get some good laps in when he went out because he had Jacques Villeneuve in front of him before Jacques stopped. So Michael now has got new tires, and you're going to see some pretty quick laps coming in now. He's got nobody in front to worry about apart from the odd tail ender.
Well, if he ran 24 laps on his first set of tires and 19 laps on this set, now he's got to go 33 laps on this final set.
But he is on a hot set. He's on hard, so he can get away with it. But the most important thing is what he can do now. He was losing time before, so now he can get ahead and get some real good time. Remember, look here, you see, David's being held up a little bit there. He's going, no, I thought David was coming in. He obviously wasn't. He looked like...
Well, now McLaren, this may have altered their strategy.
Yeah. David's coming in. I thought I saw him dive to the pit lane. I was right. I thought I saw him when he came up there behind that car.
So now, when Coulthard exits the pits, will he be in front or behind Schumacher? Unlike 2 weeks ago, this time Coulthard stops right on the mark.
Well, Michael forced this on them, you see. It's a second slower than Schumacher, and Schumacher will not be hanging about on this lap, and David was held up coming in. There goes Schumacher. He's ahead of him. That's exactly what this strategy is great. That's exactly what they wanted. Now, of course, what are they going to do with Hakkinen? They're going to leave him out there, or they're going to risk Michael catching him up on fresh tires and pushing Mika? We'll have to wait and see.
Well, pushing him, first he's got to catch him, and he's got to be some 30, 35 seconds behind Mika.
Yes, he probably is. Yes, he's probably 31 seconds, something like that, I would say at this point. We'll see momentarily. But he's had a couple of laps to get some good times in, and he's going to be going now. And he's great. I mean, Ferrari makes some... I think it's Ross Brawn that does it, but they have some brilliant strategies sometimes. And this is what they used to do in the Benetton days with Michael and Ross Brawn there. Michael's really pushing it. He's out on the exit of those curbs, which we haven't seen early in any other part of this race. He knows he's got to make those inroads on Hakkinen now.
And Hakkinen is in traffic. He's being balked by one of the lapped cars. That's going to hold him up. Coulthard as well.
Schumacher is absolutely charging as we speak. He was four-wheel drift as he came to those turns just now. We'll see just how quick he's going and whether DC David Coulthard actually makes any inroads at all on Michael. It'll be interesting to see the gaps.
He won't, because there's a lapped car in front of Coulthard. Hakkinen's lead on Schumacher right now is 23 seconds. Hakkinen will pit.
That almost isn't enough. He's going to come out with Michael right behind him, or even Michael in front. And it's really up to those McLaren guys to do a better stop than they did on David Coulthard. But did you see Schumacher there? That was him on a charge. It was great to watch. Hakkinen isn't. Here he comes. Here comes Hakkinen then. Now.
This will be very, very close as to whether Hakkinen can retain the lead on this stop.
They seem to come in so slowly. Got that 70 miles an hour seems dismal, doesn't it? I thought they had a problem. Let's just see how quick they are. This is where it counts, boys. Come on, get that jack under. You've got to get that fuel in quickly, get those tires. Pressure on these mechanics is intense right now. 7 seconds, 8 seconds, 8.5.
Oh, it's slow.
8.5 seconds. Now, where's Schumacher? Are we going to see him go by? It's going to be very close. There is Schumacher. Yes, he's in the lead.
He's got the lead.
Schumacher's taken it. And what by? 4, 5, 6 seconds. David Coulthard, look how far David's gone back. He might, my goodness, Schumacher has really stunned them with that bit of strategy in the pits. That just shows how well Ferrari can work. And Mika Hakkinen must, my goodness, what has gone wrong here?
Well, it's strategy and it's execution. Ferrari decided to bring Michael in with only 19 laps on that set of tires, hoping to force McLaren's hand. They did just that. The Ferrari stop was only 6.8 seconds. Coulthard was near 10 seconds, and Hakkinen's stop was agonizing.
Another half a second quicker for Schumacher on that lap. Outstanding bit of work there. Just let this traffic get by. Brilliant piece of work by the Ferrari team. McLaren's must wonder what hit them. Protest if you like, but these Ferrari guys know how to win or run a race, that's for sure. Whether they win yet, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, Schumacher laps Shinji Nakano in the remaining Minardi, who finished 6th here last year. And the red flags are a wave in Hungary as Michael Schumacher leads the Hungarian Grand Prix from Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. Damon Hill is in the pits in the Grand Prix of Hungary, making his second stop in the Jordan.
7.7 seconds, a pretty good stop for Damon. But my goodness, up in front you've got this situation. Schumacher has been pulling out 1.5 seconds a lap on Mika Hakkinen. Absolutely astonishing. He's got it up to 12.5 second lead over the McLarens, which I can't believe. Of course, there is also this top that we have to consider. He came a little early. He had a very quick stop of 6.8 seconds as opposed to McLaren. Oh, look at him sideways. He's on the dirt. He's off the road. He's kept it going. He's going to lose 2 or 3 seconds here, but he's back on again. Gosh, he'd be good at rallying, wouldn't he?
And there's his brother Ralph right behind.
Say, Michael, what did you do, boy? Anybody else but Ralph would have gone by. Michael, of course, has this dilemma. Has he got enough fuel for 35, or for the 30, actually 27 laps to go now, 26 laps. Has he got enough fuel? Because he had a short stop. But, of course, as we all know, he has these hard tyres. They did a long test in practice, did 35 laps on the hard tyres, so we know that he can run it. He went quicker at the end of the stint than he did at the beginning. He just lost 1.5 seconds to the McLarens and went to the field for about half a minute.
Let's have a look. What happened here to Michael?
He just gets in there, gets it sideways as he turns in, gets out on that awful stuff on the outside. Look, understeer there, push, but my goodness, he got a lot of grip on that dry surface. He didn't lose any bodywork, unlike he did in Austria, and off he goes, keeps it on. Straight and narrow as far as straight is concerned, back onto the asphalt, and away he goes. Bit of wheel spin there.
Same place that Fisichella went off in qualifying and into the tire barrier. Same way.
Yeah.
Shifter for Christmas. I prefer it be attached to a Ferrari, and I want one.
You can have one.
Gosh, that looks
you could have a 355 or one of those, but apparently David Coulthard's up in the second place, and there's no Mika Hakkinen. Mika Hakkinen has dropped back. You can see his third car in your picture there. He obviously had a moment and went off the road. We saw him earlier having a bit of a handling problem, getting it a bit sideways. That's great for David. That's Ralph going out, sorry.
Olivier Penny's 7.5 second stop, good stop.
Well, just to ride with Michael Schumacher when he's on a charge. It's nearly 14 seconds between him and Michael now. Of course, if he was to get it up to 23 seconds, a 23-second lead, he could well come in and top up with fuel if required.
That's my thought. I mean, building that lead, he had been running 2.5 seconds a lap faster than the McLarens, and the only need to build that lead and to continue to build on it would be if they plan another stop.
What I don't quite understand is, of course, is that he only stopped for a second shorter than the McLarens, yet why would he have, you know, he could have stayed another second and put the right amount of fuel in if that was the case, and he still would have come out in front.
My guess, Derek, and look at the way he's carrying the nose of that car on exit across the corners, because Schumacher stopped. His second stop was after only 19 laps on the course. Perhaps he's decided these hard compound tires don't maintain enough of their grip to go a full fuel stop, that he wanted to come in for tires and planned to come in again.
Well, I think you're slightly incorrect, because he did do a 35-lapper yesterday on full tanks and one set of tires.
I'll be happy to be wrong if he's able to stay out there to the finish.
I'd like to think you're wrong. 16 seconds now over David. Look at him zap by. It does seem like the others are standing still. But he is on a charge, and obviously he's trying to make a real impression here. Frenzen's locking up his brakes to get down to his 70 miles an hour as he comes in the pit lane. Probably having concentration very hard for him right now, because he does have this desperate dehydration problem.
Now everyone has made a second stop except the Williams. Frentzen is in, and Villeneuve will be expected. Remember that Villeneuve was the last driver to stop in the opening pit sequence. Frentzen in 76 starts, 1 victory, 1 pole, and 6 fastest lap of the race.
He was actually leading here last year, and unfortunately he didn't get through to win it. And he won the San Marino Grand Prix, his only victory to date. And I don't think it's going to be, I think it could well be a while before he wins another one, because I don't think he's going to be staying at Williams. Let's just see how he gets by this Benetton in front of him, see whether he can make the move. Of course, it's so difficult to get close enough to make the surge out of the corner and get the straight bit afterwards, but he's pulled over for him. That's good driving. I think they had so many dramas with overtaking early this year and people being idiots and swerving around that they were a bit outspoken at this driver's briefing they had. Here we go. This is probably where we saw Mika Häkkinen lose it. Let's just see where he lost that time. Here he goes, locks that brake up, can't get in onto the apex, missing the apex by several feet at that point, and then we don't know what happened.
Jacques Villeneuve in. Villeneuve was in 4th place.
Good stop, 8-second stop. It's a good stop for Villeneuve as he goes out there. Better than their last one. They didn't have a good stop last time.
Now he should come out right near Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Damon Hill.
Well, there's Damon right behind him. So that's Damon right behind. So it's status quo in that situation.
Look at the lead, 16.2 seconds now. Schumacher over Coulthard.
It actually stabilized a bit on that lap, but of course Michael did have traffic. Had to get by the Benetton, which would have sort of slowed him down somewhat, but he seems to have a clear bit of road in front of him now. It was all about, we said it was going to lighten up, brighten up, and get a bit more exciting as the race went on, and it certainly is. Now there's the McLaren right at the beginning. There's David Coulthard way back down there. Michael's well away. We'll see what the gap is now. And there's Mika Häkkinen behind David. There's Mika coming down the straight. He must be very frustrated, but he hasn't made many mistakes this year. 17.5 seconds. So Michael pulling out a 1.5 seconds when he wants to.
And Jacques Villeneuve came out in front of Damon Hill and in front of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So Jacques retains 4th place. With Mika Häkkinen in 3rd after dominating the first half of this event, starting from pole.
You have to admit, we've actually, the last few laps, watched an amazing piece of tactical work, race strategy, and an amazing piece of driving where a driver responds to his team's tactics and then gets out there and knocks the second half off the leaders, takes the lead, pulls away. Amazing piece of work. Trying very hard as we try and win Michael Schumacher.
Derek, I've got to believe that he is trying to open up enough of a cushion to make another stop.
You may well be right, Mike.
I mean, just in that last corner, the way he tossed the car into the corner, had to correct, recorrect, come back to get off the corner. I mean, he's just Just driving the tires right off that
I
corner.
love that corner they go through there, like turn 2. The car actually going over the bump. You see the tire flexing as the suspension's working so hard.
Michael Schumacher leads the Hungarian Grand Prix over David Coulthard, Mika Hakkinen, Jacques Villeneuve, Damon Hill, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. We'll be right back with you on Fox Sports Net. Michael Schumacher leads the Grand Prix of Hungary, and there's activity in the Ferrari pit. Every night on Fox Sports Net, Fox Sports News Prime Time, all the scores, highlights, and breaking stories for your hometown teams. 7 nights a week we are there.
Well, Schumacher's absolutely flying. He's just got down to a 1:19.2. I mean, absolutely amazing. Look at 41 seconds over Mika Hakkinen, who incidentally obviously has a problem. He's dropping back at about 2 seconds a lap to David Coulthard. But Coulthard is being well whipped by Michael Schumacher here. Schumacher absolutely on the limit. Seeing this guy drive right now is one of the most exciting things you're going to see in Formula One. But he's absolutely out there giving it everything he can so he can maybe get this gap so he could stop for fuel. But remember, don't think that he's going this fast because he's low on fuel. He's going this fast whether he had another 5 gallons or not. It doesn't make that much difference to a car. What I don't quite understand is why he didn't have a longer pit stop in the first place just to put that extra bit of fuel in.
I think, Derek, as we talked earlier, he said these tires aren't good enough, long enough. We're going to make an extra stop. They came in at the midpoint. Now here is their 3rd stop of the day getting set, because these hard compound tires only give them enough grip for so long.
Yes, that doesn't always follow, but I go along. They said he did 35 laps in practice on Friday, and the tires went quicker and quicker every lap, the 35 laps. But however, he's still going to come in. He's got a 27. He's been taking 2 seconds a lap off Coulthard. He's going to come in this lap. No, he isn't. Yes, he is. Here he comes.
He did 23 laps, I think, on his first set, 19 on the second lap, and he's just done 19 laps on this set, and he'll have 16 laps to the finish.
Here he comes. I hope he doesn't do anything wrong now. Don't make any mistakes, Michael. He locked up going over the line. A quick set of tires, a quick dash of fuel, and away. See if they can do another 6-seconder. Look at that brake dust. There he goes down. 7 seconds off he goes. He will still retain his lead. But Coulthard, I'm convinced, will be well behind. Here he goes out the pit, flat out now. Coulthard's not even in view. There he is, some ways behind, but too far. That's not David Benetton. Behind him is David. So it's a long way back. That is incredible strategy, an amazing bit of driving as well.
You know, at the top of the day, we never discussed the possibility of a 3-stop race. It had been talked about during practice earlier in the weekend, but it seemed as if everyone would go on a 2-stop strategy, and we talked even perhaps a couple of 1-stoppers, but 3 stops, we hadn't thought.
I would like to suggest that Ferrari probably didn't plan to, but the way the race panned out, they brought him in at a certain point so that they could make advantages of it. And I think where he was before, they couldn't leave him behind David Coulthard as he was, because he wasn't getting anywhere.
Yeah.
This is Herbert passing Hakkinen, so we know Mika's got some major problems. But McLaren say we don't have any problems, but I would say they probably do. And Herbert's in 10th place, so he's probably actually unlapping himself.
Hakkinen did not have an off-course excursion. The car just simply slowed, and Coulthard drove by him on the racetrack. That was the change of 2nd and 3rd positions.
I think you're going to be in a situation soon when you actually get Schumacher possibly coming up to lap Mika Hakkinen in 3rd place. I don't know that's so, but he certainly was 45 seconds ahead of Mika just now. Not that far to go and make up the time. Only 5 seconds between them at this point. But David... Sorry.
If that happened, that might render even Murray Walker speechless.
Yes, but he'll say the same things he always says. We've heard for years.
He's the longtime British Formula One commentator who is given to be quite expressive.
Oh, very much so. In fact, Murray stands up in front of the TV. He doesn't sit down watching the monitor or when he's watching the race. He's actually leaping up and down, which most certainly for the co-presenter. Now, all Michael has to do now is to drive smoothly, positively, and you can see he's not quite as ragged as he was. He knows he's got that 5-second bump over David, and he's got to get through the traffic, play it cool, and he's not leaping about as much as he was. It'll be interesting to see his times.
It is, because you don't often see a situation where the third place driver dictates the leader's strategy, but we did today. Schumacher making that second pit stop early as Jean Alesi moves over to let Schumacher through. And then both the McLarens having to come in, and something going adrift on Haakkonen's car. He's now, as you saw there, some 30 seconds back of the race leader.
Which of course would have meant that before Michael went in, that would be nearly 55 to 60 seconds he had over Mika. There's Fizzy Keller just in front there of Michael. Now let's hope that Fizzy will move over for Michael, or Michael is not taking any answer, just going through anyway.
You know, we expected the traffic to pose such a problem here, but we have not seen the brain drain that was evident in some of the earlier races this season.
No, I just said earlier, I think there's been so much discussion amongst the drivers and real dissent amongst the drivers that they're really looking in the mirrors and paying attention.
And of course, Rosset is not in the race today.
No, that's right. Pedro Diniz used to be pretty bad, but he's developed in the last few seasons for looking in his mirror. Some guys, you know, they sit so low in the car, you can't even see their head when you're behind them. You think, can he even see in the mirrors as to where I am? See, Michael's retaining this 5.5 second lead, but he did have those 3 cars to overtake back there, which would have obviously slowed him down a bit.
No team orders today. David Coulthard is 28 seconds ahead of Mika Hakkinen. Something obviously wrong. No comment from the McLaren pit when asked, is there a problem with Mika's car? No comment, nothing's wrong.
Because what we're waiting to see is whether, in fact, Jacques Villeneuve will catch up Mika Hakkinen. He can't be very behind Hakkinen at this point.
Michael Schumacher trying to break a tie for third on the all-time win list for Formula One drivers, leading David Coulthard and Mika Hakkinen. Who joined us late, Schumacher's Ferrari teammate Eddie Irvine lost 4th, 5th, and 6th gear in the gearbox and is out of the race, as is Mika Salo, Rubens Barrichello, Jarno Trulli, and Esteban Tuero are all out of race. 5 seconds separate Jacques Villeneuve from Mika Hakkinen. So Villeneuve closing in.
Yeah, you can see it right there, and I think he's going to be eaten up any time at all, and Damon Hill's not far behind either. I would be very surprised if Mika can hold off these two with the problem he appears to have. One would imagine he may well have a loss of a few gears, and he just can't use the gears, and you need a gearbox to get around this circuit.
And something's really wrong, because Villeneuve made up 4 of those 5 seconds.
Well, that's it. I mean, it may well be he's lost his top 2 gears or something like that.
Villeneuve just closing all over him and coming into the corners.
Mika's going to have a problem getting some points out of this one today.
Thought he might let Jacques through there. Looked like he was going wide to the entry.
He's not letting anybody through. He's hoping that Jacques might fall off so that he doesn't get his point. But it could well be these gears I'm talking about. But he seems to be all right at the moment. It might be his top gears.
Yeah, in these slower parts of the circuit, he doesn't seem to have much problem.
No.
Fending off Villeneuve. Let's see if Villeneuve fares better when they get to the front straightaway.
Yeah, well, I think the straightaway is where he's going to make the difference. He does seem sluggish through in every gear, in fact, but he certainly is losing it on that straightaway. I must admit, just look at him now. You know, he comes out there, Villeneuve really whips out and goes by, no doubt about it. Hakkinen has got something wrong with those gears.
Well, looks like he has top speed at the end of the straightaway, so either a problem with the intermediate gears or perhaps a problem with the gear change. Well, he's not getting the acceleration.
Well, these cars everything is hydraulics these days, and it operates so many things. Even the valves in the engine are hydraulic operated, so everything is under one system. So it could be something to do with hydraulics, to do with the gearbox as well. Who knows? I guess it will be a while before we really find out.
So now Hakkinen is under pressure from Ralf Schumacher. This is not a battle for position. Schumacher is a lap down. Look how quickly Ralf closed up to him.
Yeah, gets really up on the brakes. That's what I don't quite understand is I think Mika just doesn't have the confidence to get into the gear. It's almost like it won't go into the gear he requires. I can't believe he's driving the whole way around in one gear, but the guys are all over him in the corners, that's for sure. So Ralph's just got to bide his time and wait for Hakkinen to give him a slot to go by.
Knowing it's not a battle for position, would Mika just let Ralf through?
I don't think he would, no, because, I mean, Mika wants every chance he's got to stay in front. Ralph goes in front. Ralph could then make an error and take Mika with him. Mika just is desperate for anything he can get. And you're a racing driver, you don't want to give anything away unless you have to. So he's not going to give it up. But now Ralph can take it as he wants.
Well, now if that second Jordan Honda comes up, that would be for position. It would be Damon Hill. To the inside goes Ralf Schumacher and makes the pass. Not for position, but he moves ahead. Still one lap down to the race leader, his brother Michael Schumacher.
Yeah, well, we've got 10 laps to go, and Damon will be catching up pretty fast from behind on Hakkinen, as we know he's been losing a good 2 or 3 seconds a lap on everybody. So let's just see where Damon is in the picture.
Right now, Hakkinen would take home 3 points. Michael Schumacher, if he prevails, would take home 10.
In the back of that shot, you can just see Damon as Ralph here in the other Jordan overtakes Hakkinen coming into turn 1. There's downhill, sort of dropping away right-hander. Quite a tricky corner, in fact. Mika must be having such a miserable time out there. He's 6.5 seconds of Damon, but he's losing 3 seconds a lap to the guy. It won't be long before Damon has him, but poor old Mika's got a real struggle.
So Hakkinen trying to hold on 3 points. Damon Hill and Heinz-Harald Frentzen closing in on Mika Hakkinen. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Hungary. Mike Joy with Derek Bell. So here comes the second of the Jordans. This is Damon Hill. And I wonder if Mika will let him by as easily, since this is a fight for position.
Yeah, this is an amazing fight, because obviously Mika's going to find himself out of the points. And right behind him, of course, is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Remember, Mika now is holding Damon up somewhat. Damon's going to have to work to the straight, because that seems the only place that they can get by is on the straight past him. I'm convinced that he has a gearbox problem. There's something is lacking there. He doesn't seem to get it together. I don't think it's the top gear. I think it's an intermediate gear that he's lost, in fact. I
would agree, 4th or 5th, because he still has speed at the end of the straightaway. It's getting to the end of the straightaway where he did not seem to be as strong. Damon Hill dives to the inside and takes over 4th place.
Yeah, getting closer for Damon, and you've got Frentzen, who's done, I think, doing a wonderful job for a guy that's feeling like death. He's keeping up there behind, and he's now going to work poor old Mika over as well. But Mika's slow in the corners. He just doesn't seem to have the effort through the corners. Makes you think that he's lost something like 3rd or 4th gear, something that's stopping him getting through those corners well. So he has to go in slow, because you know you cannot go into a corner in 5th gear, which is a 4th gear corner, because you don't have the actual torque of the engine to take you through it.
Well, right now, Schumacher stands to gain 8 points on Mika Hakkinen, and Alexander Wirtz walks away from his Benetton.
Here goes Frentzen. He goes by as well, right out in the middle of the circuit. That was very good to be able to get by at that point. He hasn't got to wait a whole lap, so may give Frentzen that chance to go after Damon Hill. But of course, also Mika Hakkinen's car could be getting worse.
Well, it drops Mika to 6th place. 1 championship point.
It appears that, here we go, let's just watch this pass again. Very clean pass by Heinz-Harald Frentzen, no problem at all, straight down the inside. Actually, Mika was quite lucky not to get on the dirt bit on the outside, but he did, and Mika let him through.
Still, the McLaren team refuses comment. This seems somewhat uncharacteristic, especially for motor racing fans back in the States, where crew chiefs and team managers in all forms of United States racing will talk with the TV and the radio and explain what's going on with the cars to help make the sport easier to understand for the viewers. For McLaren to refuse comment, I don't know, it's just, I guess it's different from what I'm used to.
I think some people forget that it's a sport and treat it as a business. That's what we're getting here, is they don't want to give anything away, show any weaknesses at all. But we will find out eventually. Michael's pulled out nearly 15-second lead over David Coulthard. He's still whipping in some pretty quick laps. Remember, Coulthard is older tyres. Michael came in for fresh tyres and can drive as he pleases.
Frentzen's opened up 2.4 seconds on Hakkinen, who will fight to hang on to a lone championship point today.
Schumacher driving just as immaculate as ever. This is what he's so good at, is that total concentration when he gets out in front. He's done this so many times. We shouldn't say it maybe yet, but it's unbelievable just to see the reliability of the Ferrari engine. It just seems to go on like clockwork.
Michael Schumacher with 30 Formula One victories, tied with Nigel Mansell for 3rd on the list. well behind Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna. Senna, the last McLaren driver to visit the top of the podium here in Hungary, 1992.
Yeah. The last time McLaren won. Notice how they just keep to the extreme left. Those severe bumps, and a lot. Of course, the other guys that are doing the overtaking in that corner, they have to take those bumps, which of course does make it more difficult. Alexander Wirtz, who had an engine problem, unfortunately, in the Benetton Renault engine, Ecochrome engine.
Playlife engine.
I'm so sorry.
Whatever name we put on it.
That's the name they put on it. Renault engine.
Right.
At the end of the day. At a mere £13 million a year just to hire the engine. Release the engines.
Schumacher's lead continues to expand, 14+ seconds as the laps wind down. 45 seconds. Back to Jacques Villeneuve.
Surprised that Villeneuve hasn't been today. They did have two rather disappointing. I did expect to see that Williams doing much.
One Formula One victories, tied with Nigel Mansell for third on the all-time list, well behind Alain Prost and Ayrton Senna. Senna, the last McLaren driver to visit the top of the podium here in Hungary, 1992.
Yeah. The last time McLaren won. You notice how they just keep to the extreme left-hand side of those severe bumps, and a lot. Of course, the other guys that are doing the overtaking in that corner, they have to take those bumps, which of course does make it more difficult. Alexander Wirtz, who had an engine problem, unfortunately, in the Benetton Renault engine, Ecochrome engine.
Playlife engine.
I'm so sorry.
Whatever name we put on it.
That's the name they put on it, but it's a Renault engine.
Right.
At the end of the day. At a mere £13 million a year just to hire the engines, release the engines.
Schumacher's lead continues to expand, 14+ seconds as the laps wind down. 45 seconds. Back to Jacques Villeneuve.
Yes, I'm surprised that Villeneuve hasn't been more competitive today. They did have two rather disappointing pit stops, but I did expect to see that Williams doing much better today, but they themselves admit that he only really goes well on low downforce circuits, and they went extremely well, as you know, at Hockenheim, and it could have well been, well, they were on the podium, but could well have been in second place, and of course they've got Monza coming up. Spa, they probably will go quite well in 2 weeks, the Belgian Grand Prix, but when he gets to Monza, I think we'll see those Williams right up there again. Benetton, in fact, have been testing and at Silverstone, and in fact have been running here their slightly longer wheelbase chassis, and they say it's worth about 0.3 of a second a lap. They've all been getting in there and doing it, because what it does by putting this little spacer in or making it longer is it puts the weight like an extra 15% to the front wheels of the car, which of course means the front will get better grip. This is something we always want in Formula One.
One of the Benetton drivers referred to the new car as their stretch limousine.
Yes, sir.
Didn't stretch it much.
I don't think it's stretched for Wirtz. He's so tall, but it probably was for Fisichella.
Michael Schumacher trying to give Ferrari their 118th Formula One victory. And keep them just ahead of McLaren. And this will tighten up. We'll have a points race again for the Drivers' Championship.
Yes, as we said before, all is not over as far as the champion's concerned. As depressing as it seemed at Hockenheim for Michael in front of his home crowd, here he is in Hungary, not far away from where they were 2 weeks ago, just showing just how good that Ferrari car is.
Should Schumacher prevail and should Hakkinen hold on to 6th place, the difference will be 7 championship points going to Belgium, which you'll see here on Fox Sports Net in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, I thought he was going to turn it on. Don't do that now.
That was Penny, who has had a just dreadful weekend. Qualifying 20th, lots of top speed, not enough downforce, and just struggling the entire afternoon.
Yes, he was dicing for last place earlier with Takagi. I mean, that is nothing more depressing than that.
Well, Rossette's pretty depressed.
Yeah, well, depressed.
Of course, he didn't qualify.
Yeah. Talking about managers, I'm glad to see Rossette has a manager. I'm sure his manager goes around seeing what team will take Rossette and how much they want, not how much he's going to get for his driver.
Well, his manager did say he didn't take any percentage.
Doesn't mean to say he doesn't get a fee, though.
Well, okay.
I like that. No, I don't get any money.
All right. Now he's moving in on Pedro Diniz just ahead.
This is holding Michael up just a little bit here. He's dropped a few tenths of a second while Diniz ignores Michael totally behind. Schumacher just taking any line he wants to stay with the Arrows. Of course, there's been talk of the Arrows team being bought out by British American Tobacco so that BAR would have two teams. At least they could put two different cigarette brands on teams, but I don't think Walkinshaw's going to wear that. Well, some money was really right.
Are the two cars in a two-car team required to wear the same livery? Or couldn't they put a different brand on each car, I wonder?
Evidently not. I guess it's not NASCAR. They can put everything on everything.
And a lot more space to put it on, too.
He just took Mika Hakkinen, I believe.
He did. Well, the fate that Schumacher suffered in the opening round of the season, being lapped by the McLarens.
There he is. Well, back to you, lad.
Yes.
Poor old, I really feel sorry for Mika. Whatever you like to say, he's won all 5 or 6 races, but I really feel sorry for him because nothing worse than seeing your championship go ahead, use nice lead, loses that lead, and there he is again, getting a nice lead again, and now here's Schumacher right up the back of him. I mean, why couldn't it be Coulthard winning the race? It has to be Michael, says Mika.
I wonder what was more disappointing, watching Schumacher go past or watching Diniz go by. Hand in the air, wave to the crowd. Michael Schumacher comes on the front straightaway.
What an outstanding bit of driving. I mean, that beautiful bit of driving, beautiful race from Ferrari. You have to say, an outstanding team effort.
32nd Formula One victory for Schumacher, moves him into third on the all-time list behind Prost and Senna. 118th Formula One win for Ferrari.
Of course, that'll sharpen up the constructors just a little bit. Get some good points. Good for Ferrari. That was, having lost Eddie Irvine, they must have wondered what else might happen for them, but it was brilliant bit of strategy. John Todt must feel 6 foot tall instead of 5 foot right now.
Tremendous effort for Ferrari.
Look at those people on the track. That is going to cause Hungary a lot of trouble. The spectators on the track, look at them running down the road. The race isn't over yet. They're going to get fined. They could even lose the Grand Prix for that awful, fragrant bit of crossing the track by the spectators. Terrible. They're going to be trouble for this because the others are still racing behind.
Yeah, the pit lane is suddenly full of spectators.
Oh dear, they're running across the track.
Villeneuve.
We've not actually ever seen that, running across the pit road, across the actual main track. That is atrocious.
How thrilled Michael Schumacher must be. After 3 victories, he has trailed the McLarens. Had to sit up on that winner's interview alone on the end of the bench and listen to the McLaren Mercedes drivers talk about what a wonderful season it's been. But he's been very frank about the problems the Ferrari has had with the press and with us, and it'll be interesting to hear his comments as the winner of the Hungarian Grand Prix today. Michael Schumacher has his 5th win of the season, beating David Coulthard. They're walking to the podium, and Jacques Villeneuve. With Damon Hill 4th, Heinz-Harald Frentzen 5th, and hanging on for the final point, Mika Hakkinen, Jean Alesi for 7th, Fisichella 8th, Ralf Schumacher for 9th, and Johnny Herbert for 10th. Then Pedro Diniz, Olivier Panis, Jos Verstappen, Takagi, and Nakano. In the points, Michael Schumacher will close to within 7 of Mika Hakkinen. We've got a championship chase once again. Coulthard pulls out ahead of Eddie Irvine. Jacques Villeneuve moves into 5th ahead of Alexander Wirtz. McLaren Mercedes, their lead dwindles somewhat over Ferrari. And the crowd is wild for Schumacher, and he for them.
Wonderful. He loved this one. He needed this victory after the last couple of races, but my goodness, he's really pumped up today. And here those fans, they're unbelievable, aren't they, for him? John Tott gives him his spare hat if he wants it. He loves it, doesn't he? It is great to see the emotion he shows. He gets so excited. You know, to see a guy that is so talented still showing that sort of emotion. He doesn't take it for granted at all.
Winning is still very special to Michael Schumacher, who today breaks a tie for third on the all-time win list with Nigel Mansell.
Schumacher very rarely seems to show the wear and tear on his face that these other guys do after a race. I mean, his hair was nearly dry through those anthems, and the other guys looked pretty bedraggled.
Second straight podium finish for Jacques Villeneuve.
Yeah, that's great for Jacques. He needed that. He's had such a terrible early part of the season, but, you know, he's had 3 podiums now. It's excellent.
Well, Michael, you last won in Silverstone, and then you had 2 disappointing races. It must be especially satisfying winning today because it looks so convincing.
Yeah, I mean, it had been a tough time the last 2 races, as you said. We couldn't do what we wanted to do. Then here, after qualifying, being third, still believing in the race things would go better, but then after the start it didn't look like there was any chance to get by. We then optioned a 3-stop strategy, which initially seemed to be the wrong thing because I was behind Jack. The 2 guys came out in front of me after their pit stop, which was supposed to be the other way around. I was supposed to be in front of them, and I thought, now I'm really stuck and in trouble, and I really started worrying actually about position 3. But then the race developed in a way where I thought as well, is still a long way to go. Let's keep going and pushing, and finally it worked. Due to some problems obviously from the other side. I don't know what was the problem of Mika, but at one stage I was first where I didn't know I was first, and I was radioing the pits and asking what's going on, why is Häkkinen actually pulling away from me instead of I'm getting closer, because I was on fresher tires, lower fuel, I assumed. But actually I was already in first position. That was the reason why I went off, because I was pushing so hard to keep actually in contact that I then had a little off, which still meant I was able to pull enough gap after the last pit stop, coming out in front of Damon with 5-second lead, and that was it. After that it was pretty easy, but before I would say it was about 60 laps qualifying, which on this circuit is pretty tough, but that's what you have to be prepared for.
Now you're only 7 points behind Mika in the championship. I mean, that you can't have expected that before the weekend.
I mean, you dream about the ideal result, and that was one of the dreams I had, but I thought it's staying a dream. The maximum I was thinking to achieve was being first and make a second. What happened today is obviously ideal for the championship. Now things coming back to more normal. We're coming to a couple of races which some are good, some are not so good. We will see who in the end is up front, but I think we have a pretty good chance actually. Goodyear is doing a tremendous work for us, and I have to say a big proportion comes to their work. And the other thing is really by the team, because the way we used the strategy today, plus all the hard work we have done all last week, worked out, and that is obviously very pleasing, and thanks to the team.
Well done, Michael. Thank you. Well, David, second for the 3rd time running. How was your race today?
Well, it seemed all to be going normal initially, running second to Mika, and then obviously looked like I could sort of play a little bit with the gap with Michael. And then later in the race it seemed to change round. Obviously he done a 3-stopper when he came out in front of me after his quicker pit stop. That's obviously when it became apparent that he was doing 3 stops. And his pace was just too quick. You know, at that point I wasn't able to push any harder on the tyres. I seemed to be on the limit of the front tyre under braking and the limit of the rear and acceleration. And there was no way I could run the pace that Michael was able to run at that stage. And a little couple laps behind Mika when he developed his problem, lost me a couple of seconds a lap for 3 or 4 laps, and then a bit of traffic, and then the damage was done. And as soon as Michael came out after his last stop in front, then his pressure tyres, same fuel load, it was impossible.
Have you any idea what was wrong with Mika's car, and was that something that might have affected yours? Were you worried about that?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't spoken to the team to know what his problem was.
Now that Michael's closed up on Mika a little bit in the championship, are you going to be helping Mika from now on, do you think?
God, I think I've been helping him all year. Yeah, you know, he's got a better chance for the championship than I have.
Too much, huh?
So, you know, that's a consideration.
Thank you, David. Well, Jacques, third in Germany and third today. A pretty good result for you here. Were you expecting to be on the podium?
Well, I knew we could get fourth and third if someone in the front had a problem and Mika had a problem. Today, the Goodyear tires seemed to be a lot more performant in race distance, and that helped everybody in Goodyear, which was a good thing. The only problems we had was I was stuck behind Damon for most of the race and lost a lot of time. And after about 10 laps, my power steering failed, so it became a very tough race. And halfway through the race, a whole load of lights started flashing around the dash, and you know, something was wrong. I have no idea what though.
Do you think this is sort of the turnaround point for Williams and yourself for this season?
Well, the car seemed to get better with the race. We managed to get a pretty good setup for the last run of qualifying, and we improved it for the race. It was a bit difficult to drive in the first 10 laps, but then as soon as there was a little bit of rubber, the balance of the car was very, very good, and it could be pretty aggressive. So I'm very happy with the way the team worked.
Thank you, Jack. Well, Michael, we now go to Spa, which is a race you've won 4 times in the past.
Week's time will be in Belgium, qualifying Saturday on Speed Vision, the race Sunday here on Fox Sports Net. A McLaren loss, handling problems, extreme tire wear, perhaps gearbox as well, but a great Ferrari win.
Great teamwork by Ferrari, but a scintillating drive by Schumacher yet again.
Michael Schumacher, third on the all-time win list. For Peter Windsor and Derek Bell, I'm Mike Joy. So long from Hungary.